Bienvenidos and welcome to all the dragon kin out there. Today we're going to be looking at how to make some reptilian horns as well as tails. If you're looking for more general animal items like ears or more mammal type of tails like cats and dogs, this probably isn't going to be helpful for you. It's really focused on reptilian type of things, so dragons, lizards, alligators, snakes, maybe even demons. This would probably apply. So this is a little more advanced, so be prepared for that if you're new to VRoid. But I'm going to go ahead and just load up an existing character I have, and we're going to go create a freehand hair group. Let's go ahead and name it Horns. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up my mesh up around the head and kind of make it almost like a little crown up above the head. I'm going to be just doing some small horns. Obviously you can manipulate this method I'm going to use and make bigger horns or wider horns. Up to you. So I'm just going to go ahead and draw in some hair and make sure you choose the right material, which I did not there, but here we go. And there we go. Keep it in the middle. And I'm doing that because it's actually two parts. I have the mirror tool on, and I'm going to kind of make a little triangle out of it. So, boop, there we go. And I like that style for center horn. Generally, especially if you're going to do multiple, like right down the middle of the face. I think that's a nice option. I'm going to do two little ones on the sides, though, in this instance. So, do two little guys. And they're a little blocky, so I think I'm going to have to smooth everything out. So let's go ahead and just crank up the smoothness on all of these. And then I'm going to pull my mesh up high on the top and pull it down below. And that's going to kind of pull these guys into a point. So pull it, there you go. Pull it until they get to a point. And we got some super simple horns. I am going to adjust this a little bit. I do want them really poking out. And definitely want them pointy, so I'm going to pull them kind of down into the skull a little bit. And that's going to kind of make them look like they're really protruding from deep in the head there. So feel free, if you want taller ones, pull the mesh up. If you want thicker ones, go ahead and increase the thickness of each individual hair. And I'm going to go ahead and just white out this whole texture thing. So we have truly white horns. You could obviously make them a color if you want them yellow or broken. You could draw little cracks on them or whatever is going to be good for your situation. I'm just going to leave them white. And I think we're going to move on to tails, because that looks pretty good. So there's a few different ways to do the tails, and it's going to be dependent on what kind of reptilian creature you're looking to make, whether again it's a dragon or a snake or an alligator. But the idea is going to be pretty much the same. You're going to want to pull this down to kind of the lower back buttocks area, and you're going to want to elongate the bottom. And I cranked up the width and the thickness, and I'm just trying to really get this centered. Obviously it's way too thick, and I probably should have pulled all these down from the beginning, but depending on what you're doing, if you want to have like dinosaur bumps or plates on the back, you may want to keep that up high. But if you're just doing a tail, which that's really what I'm focused on right now, you want to keep all those adjustment points low. So feel free to play with them until you're getting the look that you want. You gotta crank down that width because it's way too high, but the thickness is pretty good. And I think as long as I have it aimed kind of into the skirt, I'm good on this aspect. I am going to make it a little bit longer. You can have long tails, short tails. This method works with really any kind of, again, reptilian tail. I'm going to go ahead and give it some spots to match with the rest of the skin tones on my character. So I'm going to just go ahead and pop those on real quick, some larger ones and smaller ones, and mix it up. and really give her that kind of reptilian look all the way across. So we're good for that. You'll probably want to check the animations and see how it looks. Some of the tails, depending on where you draw them, can really stick out and be garish looking, so walking and running animations are always good for that. An alternative to what we just created is you literally just grab the bottom and flip it up, and you can have a tail that points up instead of down. And our points are in the same place, so it's literally just the reverse of what we did. I'm going to go ahead and create a totally new one from scratch here. This one's going to be a little bit different. Same idea, of course. All of these are based on the same principles. But you see I'm pulling an extra adjustment point down below the skirt, which I didn't do in the previous example. And that's going to give us a little more of a curve, as you can see on the mesh. So as we're drawing it out, we'll be able to curve this tail a little more. So make sure I have my right material. And obviously I'm going to mess with the width and thickness. Those are going to be our primary things here. Another thing to note is on your curve here, you always want to have the last point all the way at the bottom. And the reason for that is that's what gives you your point. So if you had that adjustment point all the way at the top, you'd get a flat-ended tail, which I don't want for my example, but maybe you do for yours. Generally, reptilian tails are kind of triangular and end in a point. So again, just make sure that adjustment point is always at the bottom. So we're looking pretty good there. That's a very flat tail, so we want to again mess with our thickness and our width. And keep in mind, you can adjust these at both the group level and the individual hair level. So you actually have 2 degrees of thickness and width that you can mess with, which is nice because you can get some really interesting results, which I'm going to show you in a minute here. So I think that's a pretty good looking tail. Again, I have that extra articulation point, so I can even curve this up if I wanted to. And if I want, I can even bring it up way high, and it'll still come out the backside under the skirt kind of, and curve all the way up and be visible. So if you needed a tail visible for some reason, you know, up that high by the head, you would have that. I can't think of any realistic reptiles that have that, but you know, for your character you may want that. So just keep that in mind if you want to have that, pull that extra articulation point down so you can have that flexibility in your tail. So the next one, I'm just starting with the same kind of tail that we've been working with this whole time, but again, I mentioned the width and the thickness can be adjusted at both the group level and the hair level. It's called width scale and thickness scale at the group level, and then it's just called width and thickness at the hair level. You can also put these beyond the slider boundaries if you just type something in. So if we type this in a greater value than the default, which I think 3 is the max, you can get some really thick looking tails if you want some thick looking girls or boys, you know, either way. And the last thing we need to talk about is going to be bones. So add these to a bone group once you're ready to go, and that one looks great right off the bat with just the default bones. If you want to have a more flowy tail, obviously put more bones in it. And if you want to have a stiffer tail, you up the stiffness, lower the bone count. So that one kind of looks like a snake tail almost, with a lot more bones in it. I'm going to go ahead and drop this back down because I want that more classic kind of reptilian look, like a lizard. And one bone is just going to give you a little bobbly boy there, so that's up to you if that's something you want. But I hope this was helpful for you. If it is, give me a thumbs up. If you got any questions, hit me in the comments and I'll try and get back to you. See ya!